For about a year now, I've had the idea to make a video about all of my Splatoon hot takes, so today, I've made a list of all of the spiciest takes I have about the series. Just be aware you're probably going to find yourself disagreeing with at least some of these, which is perfectly fine, but without further ado, let's get into them takes. So we're going to start off with some colder takes just to ease us into it, and then gradually work our way up to those spicier ones. So, first up, in my opinion, Clam Blitz is one of the best modes in the game. Now, I know more competitive players will likely agree with me on this one, which is why I started off with this one, but more casual players that only rarely hop into the rank modes might not understand why. It's primarily to do with the map layouts of Splatoon 3 funneling you into mid most of the time with no alternative routes to get into enemy areas or get out of your spawn. Since holding one specific area of the map isn't as advantageous in Clam Blitz, it makes the mode feel the best out of all 4 modes in the game right now. The maps of Splatoon 3 simply accommodate Clam Blitz as a mode the best, for me at least. Not all Clam's maps are great though. Eeltail Alley, Scorch Gorge, and Mahi Mahi Clams are all pretty bad, but most maps feel pretty good on Clams to me. Okay, before people come after me for this one, let me explain. So I know this ability's job is to make it harder to see people swimming through ink, but there are times where I literally cannot see it at all. And maybe it's just my eyes, or maybe it's my monitor, or maybe it's both, I don't know. But no matter how many times I rewatch replays and try and see it, there are just some times where I literally cannot see it. I mean, it's been this way since Splatoon 1 for me, and under certain lighting, I can see it, but there are just certain times where it straight up is not visible to my eyeballs. And you can imagine how in Splatoon 3's meta, that'd be. I'm sure they could go about making it more visible than it currently is, rather than just straight up removing it, and I mean, yeah, they could do that, but I'm not sure how much they'd have to nerf this thing before it becomes tolerable to me. I also don't think nerfing something to the point that it becomes useless or bad is good either, so personally, I would rather it be removed. But I mean, what do I know? Skill issue, I guess. Okay, so this is the take that actually gave me the idea for this video. I personally think, at least for solo queue, people shouldn't be able to super jump. Okay, I'm gonna have to explain this one. Again. So kinda like Ninja Squid, this one is pretty drastic, but I think it's fair to say we've all had our fair share of solo queue teammates that will feed and super jump back into you without any stealth jump, even if you're sharking near enemies. The main reason I feel this way for solo queue is because I know Nintendo is almost definitely not gonna include any kind of super jumping tutorial that teaches people how to super jump properly. You could also replace this take with just add a tutorial for things like super jumping, but well, I don't know, it's not as interesting for a video. These two definitely have better solutions to them though, which is why I put them so low. So next is one that I'm sure will get far more people mad at me. And that is that Salmon Run still gets stale kinda fast for me. Don't get me wrong, Salmon Run is way better in this game, but I find that Freelance specifically ends up getting really stale. I find myself only ever going until I get all the super bonuses, and maybe if I'm close to getting one, I'll go for a Kohazuda. Maybe it's just me, but ever since I started trying to learn how to get better at Salmon Run, Freelance just became more and more unbearable. I've heard it gets a lot better once you reach higher EVP levels, but for right now, I'm fine just getting my super bonuses. Well, at least until I need to get the Salmon Run badges. Both Undertow Spillway and Mahi Mahi get a lot of flack for being bad maps, and honestly, I don't even disagree with that. But a lot of people also believe they're the worst maps in the game, and I could not disagree more. Maybe a few months ago I might have said Mahi was the worst, but now? Nah, there's a much worse map, and don't worry, we'll get to it. So let me explain to you why both Undertow and Mahi aren't the worst in my opinion. Undertow Spillway actually has one or two good modes, being Rainmaker and to a lesser extent Clams. It's not the worst map for tower control either, and while its splat zones are too small, other than that, I think it's an alright zones map. Not good, but it's also not the worst. Most of Undertow as a map is genuinely really good though. It's mostly just a poorly designed mid, and a lack of any flanks funneling you straight through mid as your only entryway to enemy areas. And Mahi Mahi, well, yeah, it sucks. A lot. But at least it's okay on splat zones. Every other version of the map has you fighting an uphill battle out of your spawn that's even worse than on something like Scorch Gorge. Whoever triggers the water level to drop first immediately has the advantage, and it's honestly terrible. That on top of the complete lack of any cover on every other mode makes it feel terrible to play on and makes E-Leader insanely oppressive. So now that I've explained why I don't think Undertow and Mahi are the worst maps, well, what is the worst map? Well, I personally think the worst map is Mincemeat Metalworks. I don't even think... I feel so bad. I don't think there's a single good mode for this map. Its spawn is terrible, its mid is terrible, it's just an atrocious map. It's a rectangle, with the only way to go being forward with very committal drops, and the only way to deal with weapons like E-Leader is with Crab Tank or missiles. Personally, I would rather play on both Undertow Spillway and Mahi Mahi over Mincemeat any day. Okay, so Crab Tank meta isn't that bad. Hear me out though. So I know 2 or 3 Crab Tanks aren't healthy for the game, but honestly, it's way more fun to use a Crab Tank than the meta of Splatoon 2. Spamming specials that aren't fun to use and aren't fun to play against was absolute hell for me in Splatoon 2. While fighting Crab Tank in Splatoon 3 can be awful at times, the fact that there's multiple options that counter Crab makes it so much better. Also, it's actually fun to use Crab Tank. It definitely needs a nerf, but I would so much rather play in Crab Tank hell than in Missile, Ray, and Armor Spam hell. A lot of people really dislike playing in this meta, and honestly, I understand why. But after Splatoon 2's meta, I'm more than okay with this, even if it does need to be tuned properly. This next one is a topic I see talked about a lot after every Splatfest, but the general sentiment about Splatfests in Splatoon 3 seems to be that they're even worse than in Splatoon 2. Personally though, I've actually been having a lot of fun with them, especially in Tricolor. Most people seem to prefer the Shifty Stations over Tricolor, but personally I found the Shifty Stations to be really lame, honestly. The maps themselves were pretty poorly designed, even worse than the Splatoon 3 maps, so the only thing that makes these maps fun are the different gimmicks that they have. Some gimmicks are better or more unique than others, but honestly, if these maps were in Turf War or the ranked modes regularly, they'd likely be widely hated. I also think there's probably a small element of nostalgia too, which is fair enough, but personally, I stopped playing during Splatfests in Splatoon 2. Splatoon 3 Splatfests, on the other hand, have been a lot more enjoyable for me. Tricolor has been a really fun bonus mode and is one of the coolest things this series has done so far, well, at least in my opinion. Adding an objective to Turf War and splitting the teams into 3 is just so cool and fun to me. I honestly never found the Shifty Stations all that interesting. They're fine for a Splatfest that doesn't last very long, but you're still just playing Turf War for 2 days. At least in Splatoon 3, I can get to the highest title on day 1 and just stop until day 2 to play Tricolor, which makes it so much better for me. So my final hot take for this video. In my opinion, I prefer the hero mode of Splatoon 2 than the Octo expansion. Okay, so this one is definitely the one that most people are gonna disagree with me on, and honestly, I think that's fair. I love the Octo expansion a lot. It's got amazing atmosphere and music, the story is enjoyable, its ideas use a lot of Splatoon's mechanics in really cool and unique ways, and it's definitely overall Nintendo's best DLC they've ever released. That being said, however, I still much prefer the normal hero mode. The main reason being the characters. I personally never really cared for Off the Hook, and while I still don't, the Octo expansion did help with it a little. But I still don't really care for them at all. I'm significantly more invested in the new Squid Splatoon. I find Cap and Cuttlefish, Agent 1 and 2, as well as the new Captain, a lot more enjoyable and just more important to the overall world of Splatoon. I also think that while the levels are easy, I personally find moving through them a lot nicer than some of the more experimental levels of the Octo expansion, and it just fits a little bit more in line with how I'd like a Splatoon story mode to be. That being said though, Return of the Mammalians was easily the best story mode in the series, so it doesn't really matter to me anymore. So those were 8 Splatoon hot takes. I know some of these are a lot more drastic than others, but I guess that's just the nature of opinions. As I said at the start, I know most people will disagree with me on at least a few of these, which is fine. These are just my opinions. Hopefully I haven't upset too many people with this video. Oh, and before the video ends real quick, I just wanted to say thank you so much for the support of the last video. I wasn't expecting it to do even remotely close to as well as it did, so every like, view, dislike, comment, everything is appreciated immeasurably, so thank you so much. Anyway, if you'd like, feel free to like and subscribe, and thank you so much for your time. Not all Clam Blitz... Clam Blitz? Not all Clam Blitz... Fucking goddamn it! No way I did that twice! Oh my god.